Hello and welcome back to CX Live, Voice of the Customer 2022. This is our second day of VOC, an event full of best case studies and interesting speakers. If you have just joined us and you haven't attended the previous day, day one will be available for you to watch on demand. And may I remind you that this webinar is delivered to you live, so you can interact with our speakers through live questions. Please use your Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Each session will have fresh new content in the resource box provided by our speakers and sponsors. Don't forget to download these digital giveaways. Now, may I introduce our next speakers to you. We've got Hervé Maurice, who is Head of Consumers and Prospects Department at SODEBO, and Emily de Bram, Managing Director in Europe at Potentiate, Ray Pointer, Chief Research Officer at Potentiate. And now we will have a short video recording for you to watch, and after that we will take questions and have a discussion.
Hello, I'm Amélie de Brem, Managing Director of Potentiate in Europe. And today I will be joined by Hervé Maurice, Head of Consumer and Prospect Department at SODEBO, and Ray Pointer, our Chief Research Officer. And we are going to talk about T-shape insight and how you can use it to listen and act on customer feedback. Before we start, just for those who don't know us, we are a global company combining technology and services, and you have here a few details about us. So today we will first start with Ray, introducing the T-shaped thinking. And then we have the pleasure to have Hervé Maurice, who will share his experience about CX and T-shaped insight. And then we'll have a quick summary, and you will have the opportunity to have questions to Ray and Hervé and myself. So now I'm going to hand over to Ray. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Ray Pointer here, and I'm looking forward to talking about T-shaped thinking. The term T-shaped skills dates back 30 years, originating at the management consultancy McKinsey and promoted by IDEO, the people who also popularized design thinking. During the last 30 years, there's been a recognition that T-shaped answers apply to an amazingly wide range of situations. What we're going to do today is focus on applying this lens to the field of insights. If we conduct a traditional quantitative survey, we will get numbers that outline what people are doing, how often they are doing it, what they prefer and what they plan to do. However, the broad picture does not talk about real people. The numbers are based on averages, counts and percentages. By adding video vox pops, we can see how people feel about the topic, giving us much more depth. By contrast, if we had only had a set of videos, we'd understand quite a lot about the people who collected and submitted the videos, but we would get very little insight into how typical those views were. The T-shaped combination of survey data and smartphone videos gives us breadth and depth. Now, let's move our lens up from a single survey to a CX program. The breadth is now much wider, large numbers of surveys, either event-driven or set to some regular period of time. If we find that dealer A, for example, is doing better than dealer B, we will get some information from any open-ended comments collected during fieldwork, but frequently this is not deep enough to show what is going wrong with dealer B or how the good performance of dealer A can be identified and leveraged. We can dive deeper if we add in Agile Qual. Why do I say Agile Qual? Well, a CX program is all about creating a positive experience. When problems are found, they need to be tackled quickly. and they need to be tackled inexpensively and tackled in ways where the finding can quickly be easily implemented. And Agile Qual gives us that. One key example of T-shaped insights is the marriage of CX and online communities. As we saw on the last slide, CX provides a breadth of information. It follows the real-world experiences of tens or even hundreds of thousands of customers. But the depth of the data is relatively light, and the best practices in CX are pushing for it to be even lighter. We're looking to ask fewer questions because it improves the customer experience and increases the response rate. By adding communities, we provide depth. Communities are typically deeply profiled. They contain a wealth of information from previous research projects, and they facilitate quick and inexpensive deep dives into the data, bringing us back to Agile. If the integration is deep enough, there can be a two-way flow of information and insights between the CX program and the community. Big data, for example, loyalty card data, usage data, transaction records, is amazingly broad. It often covers a census of all your customers, but it tends to be very shallow. A growing trend is for members of communities to agree to their big data records being linked to their community data. This allows the organization to investigate the views, beliefs, attitudes, and intentions of key groups which have been identified by the big data. It also allows findings from the community to be mapped back to the wider database. Again, using a T-shaped approach to be both broad and deep. One wave of a CX program gives a snapshot of customer experiences. One concept test with a community gives a snapshot of current intentions. One ad hoc segmentation shows which personas offer the best chance of success at a moment in time, but none of these provide depth in a longitudinal sense. Depth in this case comes from obtaining longitudinal information. In a CX study, we want to look at how satisfaction changes over time and how these changes relate to churn. In a community, we want to link changes in attitudes to changes in consumption and look at how intention to purchase changes over time and in response to changes in attitudes. What we have found is that the depth without breadth is dangerous. We have found that breadth without depth doesn't allow organizations to make changes or innovations, and that T-shaped approaches are able to deliver breadth and depth in an affordable way. Now, I'd like to hand over to Hervé from French food company SODEBO to show how client-side insight teams are using T-shaped insights.
Hello everyone, my name is Hervé Maurice and I'm very pleased to share something with you today about our experience with our community and how we implement T-shaped approaches. What is funny about T-shaped approaches is that I discovered that we have been implementing them without knowing them. But before I explain that, it is maybe useful if I introduce my company, SODEBO. SODEBO is a French company. We produce pizza, sandwiches, pasta, prepared salads, and Asian products. And we are the leader in fresh, ready meals in France. SODEBO is a family business. The company was founded by Mr. and Mrs. Bougro about 50 years ago. At the beginning of the story, they were butchers and they created a business of fresh pizza and then sandwiches and so on. The company has today more than 2,500 employees and is still managed by the couple's 3 daughters. SODEBO is recognized in France for its capacity to create very successful products. On this slide, we can see some examples of our innovations over the past 50 years. We have always been really good at understanding the expectation of the French people. and we are happy to offer them products that really meet their needs and lifestyle. This is partly due to SODEBO's culture, our customers' centricity. The SODEBO teams have always been committed to understanding customers, both in depth and in a broader way. So today we have a team that is really focused on innovation with 94 people working in 4 departments. I myself work in the market research department. I supervise a team of consumer insight managers and data analysts. They collect knowledge about the French society in general, about consumption trends, consumer habits, problems, etc. Our key missions are to collect the data needed to understand the consumer. So we help other teams to optimize our existing products and to create new products. So why did we decide to launch a SODEBO community? At a certain point, we asked ourselves how we could go even further in the collection of consumer data. Like I said before, it is really part of SODEBO's culture to do this. For instance, we have been working with our own sensory panel for more than 20 years, and we question people for testing our products very often. It is a very useful tool, but we wanted to connect even more to our customers and in a different way. We have access to an enormous amount of data with the distributed panels, such as Nielsen, and we also have the possibility of doing ad hoc studies with institutes. Anyway, the idea of being directly connected to our customer came up over 6 years ago. The better solution for us was to launch a community with people who buy our products. At this time, 6 years ago, we had a global approach to improve our way of questioning people. We launched ethnology projects, going to people's home to interview them. We still do it, and we really love it, meeting these people in this context. So our aim is to go as close as possible, and we try to get in touch with the person, with people in real life, and the community allows us to do so in a certain way. I will speak about it a little bit later. The aim of the community was also to be more agile, to be more efficient. We all need quick and precise answers. With the members of our community, we can launch studies in very short delays because the members are willing and ready to answer our questionnaires. It is quick and easy to get the results. The other good things with the community is that we can go further than traditional surveys. We have members who are very invested, committed, and who accept to answer a little more in depth to questions. We can dig deeper and generate even richer insights. As you can see in this slide, our community exists since 2015. We have about 1,280 members today, and we launch between 12 and 15 studies per year. Last year, we were about 20 studies. We vary between more traditional questionnaires and discussion forums. And sometimes we try new things. In the last 2 years, for example, we interviewed community members by telephone. So it was quite easy when they agree to spend a little more time with us in order to have an even more interactive exchange. We call them. So as you can see, we can use a lot of means in the community to get insights, and it works pretty well. Some members have been with us for 6 years now, from the beginning, and we'll see further how that point is a strength for answering certain questions. So today we have chosen to share with you 3 examples of T-shaped approaches. The main idea behind these examples is to demonstrate how the community is a wonderful way to dig deeper and to find powerful insights. The first example comes from a product use test about plant-based products. These products were very trendy products in France in the freshly ready meals market a couple of years ago. So the boom in this market was easy to see via the traditional data. We had at this time a good idea of who was consuming this kind of product and for what occasions, but we didn't really know how the product was used. So we asked members of our community to answer through a forum of a lot of questions about their use of these products. And in this context, we also asked them to contribute a little more, and we asked them to film themselves during the preparation. We are going to show you a small extract of this video.
Ça a l'air d'être assez gros quand même. Comme je pense que quand on aura mangé ça, plus des légumes, on n'aura pas faim. Parce que tu as fait carottes, poireaux, donc ouais, tu n'auras pas faim. Moi non plus. Je ne sais pas si je vais le manger en entier d'ailleurs.
Okay, so it's a French woman who explains how she will eat this plant-based product, and what is very interesting in this video, it's only a short extract, but is that the man or woman who participates says things that members don't usually say to us, even on the forums. These are very spontaneous reactions. We have seen that here we react on the side of the products, the other components of the meal, and we also had elements that we caught just by the image. For example, when the woman opens the product, she handles it in a certain way, she smells it, something that we could not have captured with the classic approach. So the video allows us to capture this human and emotional experience that we don't really have otherwise, because these feelings are not always easy to verbalize. So while study data gave us knowledge on what people consume and in which context, the community has enlightened us on the usage of these products. Okay, so the second example is one case we use a lot at SODEBO. That is when we combine panel data with data brought by the community on understanding the good or bad performance of a new product. We innovate a lot each year. We launch between 5 and 10 products, new ranges, and each time we need to find answers on what makes it a successful story or not. So it's important for us to quickly optimize the product and convince our customers. Big data gives us a very precise idea of how many products are bought in supermarkets every week. But we can also know very quickly if the product replaces another one, and if it is repurchased. But we don't know which elements consumers like or challenge when they buy this new product. So the community allows us to collect very quickly the reasons why a product is liked or disliked, and whether this product is not bought because it's not seen, or it is not understood, or it is a testing experience that does not satisfy the consumer. So how does it work? Most of the time, we combine qualitative and quantitative research with the community. So we will target the category customers. Here we took the example of a salad meal recently launched. It is a it is a pasta salad range. So very soon after the launch of this product, we selected buyers of the market of salad meals in the community. We asked about 30 of them to go to the supermarket on a purchase mission to buy this new product, even if they had already discovered it. Then they were invited to share their buying and testing experience. We also discussed with them to find out if the product has strengths that could be reinforced or weaknesses that could be corrected. What is very interesting in this example is that we really bring some depth on why one recipe in the range didn't work. We could have solutions to improve it very quickly. So the community enlightened us on the why, and we use it very often at SODEBO when we need to improve a new product. In the third example, we talk about one of the most interesting assets of the community, the possibility to make decisions through available and ongoing data. With the community, we can collect continuous information. And this is very important because we can thus detect changing food habits with our products. Some time ago, we had a problem with our understanding of decreasing consumption of pizzas. We had observed that we had specific types of consumers that were turning away from these products. I mean, they didn't purchase fresh pizza so often than they used to. So we had an instant picture with a lot of figures. We knew who was being less, but we were not sure to have the right explanation behind the diagnosis. With the data from the community, we were able to select a good sample of these consumers. We looked after historical members, people who regularly answered to surveys about their consumption of pizza during the last 5 years. Then we selected different kinds of pizza customers to question them in greater depth. We took our phone, we asked them if they agreed to answer our question, and we spent around 1 hour with them to understand why they were less attracted by this product. The whole point is that we have committed members who agreed to spend time and to go back over their entire past consumption from the beginning of the story with the pizza. This is not really possible with traditional studies. And with the community, we built a very good relationship with the members that we can investigate their practices in depth. So that was very rich. And to go further, we looked at how these people responded to other surveys that we ran in the community. For example, surveys about cooking or about other ready meals than pizza. And this was a good approach to validate or invalidate hypotheses that we had. Do people decrease their purchase of pizzas because they like cooking and prefer homemade food? And do people purchase less pizza because they like discovering new convivial products different from pizza? That's where all the hypotheses we had at this time. So the interesting thing was to mix data from different past studies because in that way we had a good overview of the habits of our customers, and we can see how they change their way of doing over time. The fourth T-shaped approach that we could mention is not yet completely in place in our community. It is about the way we could use our data from the customer experience program to implement specific surveys in our community. We have built the basis to do it because every member of the community is also a member of the customer experience relationship program. And technically, we could be able to connect the two databases. We plan to do it in the next few months, and I would be very pleased to share this new approach with you after that. Thank you for your attention. And now I will hand over to Amélie.
Thank you, Hervé. So in summary, deep without context is dangerous. Wide without deep does not support change. Deep and wide is difficult and expensive, but T-shaped approaches are the way to blend wide and deep. And now we are ready for questions.
Right. Many thanks. That was very insightful. May I remind our viewers that now this is time to submit your questions. If you want to clarify anything, if there's anything you want to discuss, please feel free to submit your questions. And I would like to start with a question. So when implementing this approach, what kind of challenges have you come across? Who would like to go first?
So I think
maybe
I will. Oh, Hervé, please.
No. Ray, you can begin if you want. I will complete your answer.
Okay,
no problem.
so probably the biggest challenge I see across different companies is making people stop and think. Most of the time in business, we do things. So we have the wide information from, say, a CX program or from the data, and people want to immediately respond because they think they know the answer. But most situations, our customers are not the same as the employees of the company. So we need that deeper information. We need to talk to customers. We need to listen to customers. We need to do some qual. We need to get on the telephone, as Hervé was saying, and speak to them to make sure that we understand what is happening behind those numbers. That is why we need to blend together the two. And the biggest challenge is this business of making people stop and think, do I really know why the numbers have changed? And if I don't, then I go to the other part of the T and do some depth.
Right. Harry, would you like to add anything?
No, it's right. You have to change your way of thinking. You have to sometimes go deeper and just to deal with the feelings and the words of our customers. And sometimes you have to go with strong data and you have to mix the different way of thinking, and that's not sometimes so easy. You have to change your way in different. Yes, that's the most difficult thing to do, I think.
And Amelie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that what's great with the SODEBO community is that you also always challenge yourself on how you could go further in the use of the community and how to go deeper. And I think that's really the last survey that you ran and that you just talked about was really a good example on how to go deeper and to go to get the depths of the insights.
Right. And we have a question from Marichu, who's saying, after getting insights from the survey results, how do you prioritize product development in consideration of planning and trial?
Maybe I can answer this question. It's not easy to prioritize the different projects linked to these insights, but in fact, this is not the only tool we have. The community will also use traditional studies to get insights, and we have projects that are very, very important, and we know that these projects will be. We have to do and to make these projects going on at first, and it's not challenging the way we are doing the development, the product development. It's only data that we use or don't use just in time. We can use it later, and it's not a tool we use to prioritize our projects. I don't know if my answer is clear, but we already have some projects we know that we have to deal with in priority, and to make them going on first, and then yes. So there are some insights we put just on this side, and we say that it's very interesting insights, but we will use it maybe in a few months. But sometimes it can happen that one insight is very important, and we are very excited to use it. So it can also lead us to open new products. It happens, but it doesn't change the project planning, because we have maybe 20 or 25 different projects we lead at the same time. So, but it can happen that it makes us change our way of opening or closing projects, because sometimes also we close and we stop some project because of one insight we collected in through the community. It can happen also.
Right, Emily, would you like to add anything?
I think this is a good general reminder that most companies, most organizations, like a food company like SODEBO, like a car company like Toyota, they don't normally have a research project. They have a new pizza project. They have a new seatbelt project. They have a new delivery project, and insights are used to help that project exist. Or, as Hervé says, sometimes they are used to stop the project, to say, actually, this is a bad idea. But we don't do research first and then think about what products to make very often.
Right. And Emily?
Yes, I think it also depends on the company, and you also have companies with very strict process, with specific research as a different step. So yeah, but what we saw is that highlighting product development with consumer insights really help to better understand people and to accelerate also the process. Because if you directly inject the voice of the customer, you can validate that you're going in the right direction. So, yeah.
Right. And do you have any advice for how to implement a step-by-step voice of the customer program?
So, Emily, do you want to lead on that one?
Yeah, I think it's quite broad, but you have different steps, and we would often advise to start small and to build things ongoing. But I think that the most important thing is to first make the global business understand that the voice of the customer is needed and needs to be considered all along the process. And it's really the first the first step, I would say, to really create this culture of customer centricity, human centricity, and really be customer needs led instead of product development led, I would say. And then, yes, we often advise our client to start small and then build the blocks to improve and grow this understanding of your customer, and at the end getting this 360 view of your customers.
Right. And how would you overcome a challenge that many organizations face, that different departments in a company have their own priorities, have different priorities, not necessarily kind of looking at the voice of the customer or the CX function? So how do you kind of unite them under one goal, which is customer?
I think it's not so much that the different departments don't agree on customer centricity. That would have been the case in the past. Now it's more typical for everybody to be interested in the customer, but wanting to do it their own way. So the design team want to conduct something. So the delivery team, the operations team, they all want to be involved in something. And I think the biggest change we're seeing is really the the experience director. The rise of an experience director responsible for employee experience and customer experience and user experience. And ideally, the insights team will work with the director of experience director, to pull all of that together. A lot of companies are aware that they should not have silos, but they need help sometimes being pushed into this. We want to move away from the silos, because it's so easy for somebody to use SurveyMonkey or to do something separate. So really, it takes somebody in authority, the CEO, the CFO, at that sort of level, to create the chief experience officer to try to pull all of these strands together.
Right. Hervé, Emily, would you like to add anything, or shall we move on?
No, I agree with Ray. It's important to link the different data and to make only one voice about consumer, but to make this voice interesting to other departments. But I mean, in my company, in SODEBO, it's part of SODEBO's culture to listen to customers, and everyone in the company is very interested in what the consumers are saying about our products. So it was not very difficult to implement this approach, because everyone is aware about our customer. So it's quite easy, in fact.
Right. Thank you. And we have a question from Adam. Follow up to what Ray said. My question is, would you recommend having more research projects that do open exploration for new ideas rather than projects focused on existing product?
Well, having more research depends on how much you have at the moment. So for most companies who are successful, the majority of your research is going to be tactical. It's going to be about helping teams that already have a plan and priorities. But of course, you need some blue sky research. So if we take what Hervé was saying about SODEBO, you start to see that there are conversations about plant-based alternatives. And you need to research that and decide whether or not there are existing opportunities. And if there are existing opportunities, should they be lookalike, so plant-based products that look like chicken, or should they not be lookalikes? And those are the sorts of things that you're going to do research into to extend that. Some of that research will be around crowdsourcing, working with communities to generate ideas. But nevertheless, the vast majority of research will always be to help the processes of the company, not to redirect the company. Even though redirection happens occasionally and it's important, it can't be the majority of the research.
Right. Shall we move on, or would you like to add anything, Emily and Hervé?
No, it's...
Okay, so let's move on to the next question from Ariel, who's asking, is it necessary to implement all of the different T-shaped thinking methods, or is there a combination that you think is most successful?
I think that you have even more T-shaped thinking than the one we showed. So you maybe won't be able to implement all the thinking at the same time. I think that in the example of the SODEBO community, it was actually a mix of different T-shaped thinking that was done. And I think that generally speaking, combining a CX program with a community program will allow you to easily get different T-shape thinking, because you will have a lot of quantitative data with your CX program, and at the same time with the community, as Hervé said, you have very engaged people that are connected with you, ready to share a lot of insights, to film themselves, to share videos, to really share things in detail. You will have the longitudinality of things. So these two tools would allow you to get quite a lot of T-shaped thinking, I think.
Right. Anything to add?
So since we are talking about a food company, then I think the good analogy is this is like what the Scandinavians call a smorgasbord. It's a buffet. You should choose the right things for the right situations. It's not always going back to the same tools. And I see that we've got people from lots of countries online, so I'll share a British expression. If your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. So we want to have different tools so that we can blend them together for different problems.
Excellent. And Ray, there is another question for you from Nick. Nick's asking, in your experience, how does the CXO role function best? Is it akin to a COO? Oversight over each other department? If not that, I've seen it turn from managing and leading to begging and pleading.
Yeah, that's a nice description, managing and leading to begging and pleading. So the COO, the Chief Operations Officer, the CXO, the Chief Experience Officer. We talk about the C-suite. People whose job title have C in them get to be listened to. They're on the board. And this Chief Experience Officer has to have real teeth. They have to, he or she, be in the position to evaluate other teams, cause maybe some people to have to leave the business if they're underperforming. You've got to have the ability to manage and lead. So that manage is where you're tackling underperformance. Leading is where you're giving examples of this is done right. This is the way things should happen in the experience.
Right. Emily, Harry, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add.
All right. We have a final minute, and in that minute, I would like to ask you if there's anything you would like to say to our viewers before we finish this webinar.
I would say to listen to Hervé about putting customers at the center. We come back to this. It all starts with customer centricity.
Yes. It all starts with this. You're right. Yes.
Otherwise, the butchers who formed SODEBO would still be selling just meat.
Sorry, Ray.
Otherwise, so the people who the couple who started the company,
yes.
You wouldn't have all these wonderful things.
Yeah, you're right. and it's so exciting to listen consumer. You learn a lot. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your case study and your insights and experience. May I remind our viewers that the next webinar will start in 15 minutes time. So 10 a.m. Eastern time, please join us for the next webinar. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.